Right guys, so that concludes 2023 prep. Want to do a quick little wrap up video just to put my thoughts onto, not onto paper, onto video format I suppose for you all. First of all, I want to say this: I appreciate every single person who has followed along the journey and followed along the prep from the very start. It has been a roller coaster that mainly went up. There was ups and downs, but for the majority of it, it was up, and I do look back on it with extremely fond memories. I'm only one day post show. It's the day following my second 2 bro show, which I will delve a bit more deeper in now in a second. But prep as a whole started for me 6 months ago, 24 weeks, and it's a long time. It's a long time for anyone to be living in a box, and that's something I would, I suppose, make sure everyone understands and takes into consideration before even thinking about doing a prep is, okay, how long am I willing to spend on this prep, and how long am I willing to be selfish, and how long am I willing to make sacrifices, because prep is an extremely selfish thing. It does take away from a lot of other aspects of your life, like relationships, friends, social gatherings, all that kind of stuff needs to be put on a halt. So that's something you do need to consider when doing a prep, and especially for a first time prep. It does need to be that bit longer, because you don't know how long it's going to take for you to come in and to be in shape, and how long it's going to need you to prep, and kind of what bumps in the road you might come along the way. So start a prep, just to kind of give you a bit of an overview. We started at 105.5 kilos. My lowest weigh-in was the morning of my first show at 79.2. So if I was to do some quick maths on that, you're looking at 26 kilos taken off in the space of 24 weeks. Now my starting point for prep was a position that hopefully I'll never get to again, and I won't get to again. I was definitely a bit on the chubby side, but there is merit to that, I believe, at least once in a push-up to get to that body weight as well, and to push limits and boundaries, and to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because there definitely was a bit of muscle added, a fair bit of muscle. I hadn't been lean in 2.5 years since I did my photo shoot, and for me, probably the most exciting part of the prep was having all this new muscle, and every time I hit a new low weigh and I saw something new, or I saw a new, striation, or a new bit of kind of line in my quad, or something on my bicep, and all that part of it for me was new. I was cruising throughout the first 4 weeks of my prep as well, so that's something again that I'm glad I did, and I recommend that to all my clients, to just take a bit of downtime before prep, because it is very full on, it is hands on, and that time before prep, make sure that you're being very unselfish, and that you're spending time with loved ones and friends, and giving back to those, or even, I suppose, preempting giving to those prior to what's going to happen. So start prep, we ran things pretty smoothly. Weight was dropping pretty quickly for me. I was losing like nearly 2 kilos a week at the start of prep with minimal adjustments. Cardio was obviously layered in, obviously went back on blast as well, so that kind of helped. And I think for me the first few weeks were extremely enjoyable, because things were starting to move. I was dropping weight, I was loving training, everything was just new to me as well. When you kind of reach that, I suppose, even kind of 8 to 6 week, 5 week out mark, that's when things really start to get tough, and kind of doubts start to come in your mind, come in your head, because you're not lean enough yet for stage. You're still carrying a small bit of body fat. It's actually the hardest part of prep, in my opinion, is anywhere from, we say, 10 to 4 weeks out. Because if you look at prep as like a timeline and as like a map, it's almost like kind of flying a plane. So you have your departure and you have your destination, and you take off, and it's a smooth sail, and that's the start of prep. And then there's that bit where you're just coming along, and that's where the bulk of the work needs to be done before you start landing the plane, which is kind of that 2 week out mark. So things do actually get a bit easier if a prep is handled correctly towards the back end of things. So the bulk of the work must be done in that kind of middle part, and that's when cardio was highest, that's when kind of food was almost lowest, and probably where it was toughest as well. So coming in then to the back end of prep, say 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks out, physique really started to take shape, and I was loving how it was looking, but training definitely started to take a dip. And for me, the hardest part of this prep was letting go of the logbook, letting go of the figures, accepting that I'm not going to progress in the numbers. I really found out a lot about myself throughout this prep, but the thing that I found out most was how much I value the gym and how much I value my progression, and seeing that slip with my training, it was actually quite upsetting, to be honest. It was something that got to me a lot, and I had to be willing to just let the logbook go, accept the fact that I'm not going to be building new tissue at this stage of prep, not going to be progressing my numbers. And really the gym for me for the last kind of 4 weeks was just ticking the box. And I don't want to say I fell out of love with training, because I didn't, but I was going to training just to tick the box, just to kind of use it as a I suppose, expenditure or a way to expend calories, and then take my photos after. And I was just training to look at my photos after and to see kind of how I was looking by the back end of the session. So that was kind of prep, I suppose, kind of how it was mapped out. 24 weeks of that. Food obviously started quite high and was brought down. The lowest I got to was 2,035 calories daily for quite a long time. About 8 weeks I spent there. 40 minutes cardio. I was pushed to 50 at one stage, but beyond that, that was it. Obviously, you have lipolytics in play as well, and everything else, which does make it that bit easier for you to manage. Going on then into the actual shows itself. So first show for me was PCA Derry, and I had the absolute time of my life. It was honestly up there, one of the best weekends I've ever had. So we flew out two or 3 days before the show, Airbnb, girlfriend was with me, videographer was with me, coach was with me, and it was just a good laugh. We had a good time. I didn't know what to expect. I wouldn't really say I was nervous as such, but just overall that weekend it was absolutely amazing. Getting up on stage was something that I wouldn't say I was wary about. I wasn't nervous, but I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy being on stage, but trust me when I say I loved every single moment of that stage. My confidence came alive, and yeah, I just loved it. So there was 8 lads in my class on the day. I finished 4th, which, looking back on things, it was a fair enough result. Definitely was. The 3 guys ahead of me were, the guy who won was in a league of his own. There was no catching him. The other 2 guys just outsized me, and that's something that I'll speak about now in a second, is kind of what I need going forward. And it is size, okay, because my condition was one of the best on stage, if not the best. Shape is good, structure was good. My judges' feedback all said that, and they complimented me on my confidence on stage and my presence. So that's something that I do have, is the structure, but it's just a case of putting on more size. And the guys who finished 2nd and 3rd are like 28, 29. So I have 4 or 5 years to get to where they're at. So that was PCA Derry. That show wrapped up. We then had a bridging between shows of 2 weeks where we went on to do the Race to Royal Rumble. Now, them 2 weeks between shows were probably the toughest 2 weeks of prep, if I'm being completely honest. It was very, very hard for me to dial back in, or I suppose even kind of focus on the second show. I honestly didn't feel like I was competing until I stepped on stage. Going to the tan and the build-up and the peak week, it just felt like another day. I didn't feel like I was competing whatsoever. Thankfully enough, I had Anthony's PCA show the weekend in between, which kept me busy, and I was busy with clients, so I wasn't thinking too much about it. But when the time came around for the second show, that was Two Bros, that was Race to Royal Rumble. That was one of the biggest shows of the year, except in my class there was only 2 people, which I was really disappointed with, because you don't want to put in all this work and then have no competition. Okay, so yeah, great, I got a 2nd place medal, but a 2nd place medal in a class of 2 people is a last place medal as well, in my opinion. And that's not a negative, that's not me being negative at all. It's actually me using that as motivation and using that to kind of light a fire in my belly to kind of drive on to what I want to do next. So there are the 2 shows. I actually loved every second of the first show. The second show, this bit disappointed in terms of kind of the turnout there and the lineup there. I'm glad that the PCA is my first show, because as a whole it was just an unbelievable experience, how it was ran, everything just from the tanning the night before to the registration to the show day. It was all just so smooth, and it was just one of the best weekends of my life. So we are 1 day post the second show, so things are still fairly new, still fairly fresh for me. As I said, I finished 2nd in the class of 2, which again obviously is not the result I wanted, but fair is fair. That's bodybuilding. What can you do except kind of get on with it and use it as motivation to drive you forward. So for me now going forward, I have 8 weeks of a health phase coming up, which will bring me up to December, and from then we're going to go into our next push-up. My plans going forward are to put on more size. That's just what's needed, is more size overall, particularly legs, delts and arms are where I'm going to be focusing on. But to, I suppose, map things out and kind of where I see things going over the next few years, realistically, I'd love to compete again in 2 to 3 years. I'd imagine it would be more so 3, just for the size that I need, because next time I step on stage, I want to be undeniable. I don't want a fucking participation award, to be honest. Okay, next time I step on stage, I want to be the person that walks away with gold. So that's why I'm going to take as long as I need in this off season. Back in the 2025 or 2026 when I compete again, looking more so like 2026. This prep as a whole has definitely taught me a lot about myself. In comparison to my photo shoot prep, it's night and day in terms of kind of, it was double the amount of time, it was obviously, there was a lot more on the line in terms of competition, going up against people, and it really brought out the competitive aspect in me. Something that I knew I always had within. I played a lot of sports growing up, but it was kind of hidden away and it was kind of hidden underneath there. But throughout the months and the weeks spent on prep, that competitiveness definitely came out again, and that's why I'm driven now to drive on, to keep going on, and to push on, to be better, to come back better, and to, you know, beat them people that bet me. You know, and that's competition, and it's good competition as well. You don't want to be a loser. Like, I'm a winner at heart, I really am, and I don't want to be coming second in the lineup of 2 ever again. So beyond that, it taught me a lot in terms of just kind of who I am and kind of what I value, and you know, I enjoy being by myself a lot. I enjoy my quietness, I enjoy my routine, my rigidness. I love the routine, the rigidness of prep, the getting up early, the cardio, the steps, ticking all the boxes. That genuinely makes me so happy. Like, that is what I love. And to be honest, for me, competing and getting up on stage, putting the thong on and putting the tan on and posing to some music, it's just a cherry on top. It really is. It's the in and out, it's the day in, day out, ticking the boxes of doing the shit that you don't want to do, and the sense of achievement after that just gives me so much fulfillment. And that's probably why I bodybuild. It's not actually to compete, it's not to go against lads. It is for the routine and for what it brings me in terms of kind of fulfillment and happiness. So bodybuilding definitely isn't for everyone. Everyone knows there's more, you know, bodybuilders that pull out of preps than that actually finish preps. And for me, especially going into the first show, my win was to just step on stage, and that should be the win as any first timer is to, I'd say, can you actually complete this prep? Can you get on stage? And can you say that you did a prep and you did yourself proud? And I definitely did, because there was no minutes of cardio pit missed. There was not a gram of food over or under throughout the whole however many weeks, and condition was brought definitely. I have striated glutes. I might even throw some stage shots up over this video so you can see yourself. So the love for bodybuilding is there, the itch is there, the fire is lit in the belly, and the new chapter begins now. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that YouTuber shit.